who registered for this class probably wondering how to pronounce my name, and it's okay. I do get that a lot. Think of it this way: the H is just a decoration. So it's Leigh Ralston, and again from Northwest Arkansas area, and I am a mom, hence the name Mommy Leigh. I'm a mom of 3 kids. I used to say I sing for a living and I do art as a hobby. And now it's the opposite. So I do a lot of art for a living and then I sing now for a hobby. Hello, and I am seeing all your chats. I was just in Chattanooga in Tennessee last week. It is beautiful there. So we have Atlanta, we have Chicago, I saw San Francisco, we have Canada. Hello, Tennessee, Atlanta, New Jersey. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And this class is going to be recorded. So to some of you who missed the live one, you're watching this on a replay. But hello, and this class is going to be really fun, simple. How can I say it? This is like being a kid. I know I say this a lot in a lot of my workshop, but it truly is. It's kind of like going back to the basics again and learning how to write again. Isn't that crazy? But that's what it is. It was funny because while I was setting up, my son was saying, "Mom, do they really take this class?" And I said, "Yes, and this is what I do every day." So faux calligraphy, I got this question on Instagram, a whole lot of that. So what is faux calligraphy? Basically, it's like the fake calligraphy. So let's just put this out of the way. I always tell people handwriting and hand lettering are 2 things, all right? So when people tell me, "Leigh, your handwriting is super pretty," that's actually false. It's not. It's not super pretty. I don't really write neat in real life. Yes, you're hearing that from me. Hello, Houston. So when I write, so this is very important because I don't want you to be overwhelmed and say, "I don't have a neat handwriting. So how am I even going to learn this calligraphy?" You got this. So handwriting versus hand lettering. Notice how slowly I was doing the letters versus when I was doing my handwriting. So that's the difference in that one. When you're hand lettering, you were actually drawing your letters. You were very mindful. You were in the present moment. Usually when we write, I don't know, maybe if you journal, I do journal a lot. But even though after I do my hand lettering, when I do my handwriting to write down things in my journal, for example, this way, I just want to show you real quick. So this is a hand lettering, all right? And then when I try to input my journal, post and just say, look at the writing in this one, it's very different. It's just not the same. So if you have this problem and say you're thinking, Leigh, I can't write neat, it's okay. When you hand letter, you're going to be in that moment. And that's what I want you to be right now. I want you to be in this present moment because I was listening to a podcast and it said there that when you are an experience with emotions, that becomes a long-term memory. So put yourself in a very good mood and good spirits, and we're going to start this class. So, and erase that thought of you don't have great handwriting or you don't have neat handwriting. Erase that thought. We're going to start from the scratch and we're going to learn how to do faux calligraphy. All right. So everybody ready? All right. So I prepared a worksheet for all of you, like what Krista said. She will have it posted in the chat so you guys can download it. And the last time that we did a workshop, I didn't include this practice sheet, so you can just download and print this as many times as you wish so you can practice your hand lettering, okay? So faux calligraphy class, fake calligraphy. So basically we're going to mimic, we're going to fake the brush lettering. But before that, let us understand the different tools or the pens. I have here, these are the 8 sets. This set is going to be available at Michael's, but Krista can also post the link to this set of black Pitt Artist Pens. The Pitt Artist Pens comes with many different tips. So I just want to show you real quick the tips of this pen so you can actually understand what they look, how and how you can use it, where you can use it for. So it'll just give you an idea. I'm not gonna take my time because we're gonna cover a lot of things today. Okay, so let's start with the extra small. I love the extra small when I'm doing some just regular writing. So you can also do this so you can just kind of like warm up your hand, warm up your wrist, and get comfortable with your lines. Just keep doing some diagonal lines that way. So that's the extra small. I'm going to try and zoom in real quick so you guys can see much better. There we go. So that's the extra small. The next one will be the small tip. So as you can see, there's just a slight difference, but not a whole lot. Now we're going to use the fine tip or the letter F. So this one I'm also just warming up. Make sure that my hands, so that's the fine tip. Now we're going to use the medium, okay? So as you can see here, well, while we're doing the lines, we're just getting the same width, the same stroke. So we're not getting the thin and thick line that you see when you're doing, when you're browsing on the internet and you're looking at calligraphy things. So this one, you're just going to get the same stroke over and over, no matter what kind of pressure you apply to your pen, whether you're going light or you're applying heavy pressure, you're still going to get the same stroke. Now, the next one is, this set actually comes with a soft chiseled, but I was practicing the other night and I misplaced it. But so the chiseled is this. So now we're getting different lines, right? So this one, so it's a square tip. You can also get thin here if you don't angle. If you're just going to use the tip of the pen or the nib, you're going to get that thin line. But if you angle your brush when you're using a chiseled, you're actually going to get thicker lines, right? The next tip is the brush. Now, this is the tool that I use when I'm doing my brush calligraphy, hence the name brush. So this one, I am getting thick when I apply pressure. I'm going to get thin lines when I go really light. So upstroke is light, downstroke, you have to apply pressure. Thin, thick, thin, thick. That's very important because that is what we are going to actually mimic. The thin and the thick, the thin and the thick. So this is what the faux calligraphy is going to be about. And then another tip as well is the soft brush. This one works just like the brush, but this one has a softer bristle. So I feel like if you are having a hard time to sometimes get those thin lines, I feel like the soft brush gives you thin line much better. And it also gives a certain texture to your lettering, especially when you're going a little fast because of that, the little bristles of the brush. See? So again, the same principle, thin going up, light going up, thick going down, pressure going down, right? I know you're going to say, but we're not going to use a brush pen, but why do we have to remember the thin and thick and light and heavy? We'll get to that. All right, the last one is the 1.5. I like to call this the bullet tip. I love using this when I'm doing some mono lettering. Very clean. Also, it's really good when you're doing a little, much bigger piece of lettering. So this is the 1.5. So all of this will come in that one set. And I believe that Krista posted that one. All right, so the 1.5, I'm gonna write it down just if you guys wanna look at it.
Yep, the link to the pens is in the chat. And Lei, as you were presenting this, we did have a question in the chat if you had any tips for a left-handed writer.
Yeah, we always get this question, right? To be completely honest with you, there is no wrong and no right. I think the same principle really applies to the lefties as well. It's just the opposite of what I'm teaching. For example, when I'm writing, let me adjust my zoom. Quick. Okay. So when I write even just a simple handwriting, actually, I really tend to tilt my paper or my notebook or my notepad to the left. So if you're a lefty, you're going to have to tilt it to your right. So the same principle, the same rules of the thin and the thick, it's going to be the same, but you're going to apply it in the opposite way. Okay, so that's the fine tip. Then we're going to go in the fun part. And then, so small, we have this one. This one was the small. We have the fine. We have the medium. And then we have the chiseled. We have the brush. And then we'll have the soft brush as well. Okay, so I am going to use, for this one, I'm going to use the fine. And I might use a 1.5 and the brush as well. Okay. All right, so let's look at our worksheet. In your worksheet, you're going to see that I've included this sample of the letter A. And the first letter, I lettered that using the brush pen, or this is the brush calligraphy or brush lettering. And then on this side, I did the faux calligraphy. All right. So that is why the reason why I was telling you about the the rules or how to get the thin and thick is because we're going to mimic that. So you're still going to have to understand where to add your thick lines. So once you understand that going down is where the thick, that is where we're going to add that technique to create the faux lettering. So go ahead and look at that first step. And I'm going to go right with you. So let's just copy the letter A. I'm just going to do it over here so you guys can see. So the brush calligraphy, it's thick there, and it's thin there because again, going down, that was my downstroke. This is my upstroke, right? And then downstroke again. So if you've noticed, if you're going to look at this, the downstroke is always thick. The upstroke is thin. Now we'll say this here. So this is really important. Okay. So brush calligraphy is a combination of upstrokes and downstrokes motion. The upstrokes for your thin and the downstrokes for the thick lines. All right, so now how are we gonna do the brush calligraphy? All we gotta do is when you're doing the brush stroke, that is where you're going to add your line. So we're going to add another stroke. And the common mistake that we see a lot of people do when they're doing the faux calligraphy is the consistency of their added stroke to create that brush look. So here, so I'm going to go add another stroke for my downstroke. There's going to be a lot of stroke in this class. So we're going to add it here to the left. And tip for you, when you add your extra stroke, always put them on the right side of your letter. It's really important because that was a mistake that I was doing before. And that's why my lines were always consistent, because sometimes I would put them on the right side. Sometimes I would put them on the left. And to avoid that, let's go on to the second one, is that pay attention to the spacing of your letters. Okay, so what I mean by that is if we're going to write love, okay, and just a regular writing. Now, you can do this in whatever style you would like. You can do this as a print. We're going to try both so you guys can see that the same concept will apply. So I'll try with a love, and I'll show you the mistake that I used to do as well. So that's the word love. Now I'm going to add my downstrokes or my extra strokes to create that thick line. And it's okay if you have to sometimes kind of trace along your letters to remember where your downstroke is. Until now, I still do that. All right. So here, as you can see, the spacing is too close together. And that's why I'm going to have a hard time adding my strokes here because, or it's going to be inconsistent. Some would be much thicker than the others would be thinner. Okay. But if we are mindful with the spacing and knowing that we're going to add a stroke to the right side of the letter, be mindful of that. Oh, I have to add the extra stroke, so I have to adjust the spacing of my letters. Knowing that you're going to add it to the right, I'm going to add extra spaces to my letters. See this one, they're a little too narrow. And it's okay. I mean, when you're practicing, the more you do this, the more really it's going to become natural to you. And that's the key, is practice, practice, practice. But getting a lot of tips also really helps a lot because I wish I knew these things when I was first starting. But what I did was I tried to skip a whole lot of the basic strokes and all that with the brush calligraphy. So don't skip the tips and tricks, but at the same time, try not to get stuck with that idea because you know yourself and you know how your writing is. So as long as you understand the concept that with the downstroke, we're going to add an extra line to the right side of the letter. So just be mindful of your spacing. So now we're going to add the downstroke, right? So I'm going to put it on the right side of the letter. And the beautiful thing about having different tips is that, for example, you feel like you didn't have enough space, then you can use a much smaller tip to add the stroke because basically what we're going to do is we're going to fill this in. So it's not going to matter if you're going to use the much thinner tip of the pen. So this time I'm using the extra small. Again, the key is to be consistent of the width of the stroke that you're going to add. Not the size of the stroke, but the width of that downstroke that we're trying to mimic. Now we're going to do this here. This was my downstroke over here. And then the love, I'm going to add over here because this was a downstroke as well. So I like this much better because everything is spaced out much better. And also my lines are uniform. That's why it looks much better. So what we're going to do next is we're going to fill in the strokes that we added. If you want to use the brush so you can fill it in faster, you can do that as well. Or if you'd like to use other colors, you can certainly do that as well. There. There's the love. And in your worksheet, guys, I've actually included some sample letters that you can practice along. And we're going to do this as well. I hope that you have some tracing paper like this. And then I have some sample letterings that we're going to do later, and we're going to make this a faux calligraphy. Because this is just, I like to call it a monoline lettering, which is just one size of stroke. Mono, just, just a very simple, clean lines. So this one, once we've added those extra strokes, then this time it's going to look like the brush calligraphy, right? Okay, so that's the word love. Those are really the two main rules. I can't say really rules, but those are the principles that you have to think in your head. Okay, spacing, and then consistency of the width of my strokes. All right. So we're going to do a different style of lettering. It doesn't have to be just script. So let's try the word blessed. Write it down with just your normal or whatever style of lettering you'd like. But still be mindful of that spacing and of that thought that you're going to add extra. Sure, right? And this is where that rule sometimes doesn't apply, that always on the right side of the letter. And I'll show you why. And that's okay to break the rule sometimes. It's okay. Okay, so downstroke. As long as you added to where your downstroke is, this is the faux calligraphy. So this was a downstroke, the first line of the letter B. So I'm going to add an extra stroke over here. And then so this was a downstroke as well. So I'm going to here and then add that one. Let me try and zoom in. We can see much better. All right. And then we're going to repeat the same process. The other belly of that letter B. All right. And then we're going to do it over here. So this was my downstroke. And I'm going to close this in. So this was upstroke, but I think it's going to look great if I add here, even though it wasn't a downstroke, but visually look at your letters and you decide, if it's going to look much better if you add an extra stroke in there. So that's where creativity comes in, because it doesn't matter how I do it. All that matters is what you like and how much fun you're having, while doing this. All right, so same thing I'm going to do with the letter E. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to copy what I did with the letter L over here. There we go. All right. So remember what I said earlier that you have to put it always on the right side? Now the spacing of my letter S, it's going to look a little odd if I put the extra stroke. I'm just going to add here so you guys can see. See, I have much space in here, but if I put it here, now it's really going to look unbalanced, you know, not uniform, not, but if that's the look you're looking for, again, it's okay. So this time I'm going to break my rule of putting it on the right side. I'm going to put this one on the inside. Now it looks much better because if I put it on the right, it's going to look really wide, my letter S, and I don't really want that look. So same thing I'm going to do in the letter S. Instead of going outside, I'm going to go inside. Right? Repeat the same process. Same thing. There we go. And then this time, I'll show you real quick. Okay, maybe not real quick because I have to do the strokes here. I'm just going to do S is where I added the stroke. And then we're going to talk about what it looks like when it's not, you know, clean and not consistent with where you put in or laid down your stroke. Who's counting how many times I say stroke in this class? Somebody should be counting this. Right, then just fill in those. There we go. Okay. So I'm gonna point this one because like what I said, I don't always do things right the first time. That is why I love using pencil. When I'm doing like lettering pieces for Instagram, or I have a work for a client, I really love working with pencil first because it's not fixed. I can erase things and I can redo things. Um, just an extra tip in there. All right, so I'm not happy with my letter B because over here where the bellies are, the downstrokes or the extra stroke that we added is a little thicker. So this time you can still always correct it. So if you feel like this is not thick enough, no biggie. We can just add extra stroke in here to make it a little wider. I feel like this one, the top belly is a little thicker than the bottom belly. I'm just going to add a little bit here. Yeah. This one will work if you're using just one color. But if you are going to, for example, do your outlines in black and then you're wanting to fill it in with another color, it's going to be a little difficult. That's why I suggest that you try and do your lettering first with your pencil, then you can go back again and then do your strokes and your pens. So this one, I feel like, you know, it's a little odd that this one looks like that. I'm really not happy with that. So guess what we can do? We can add a little here. So we can mimic that look as well. I'm going to keep the same process. Just add over there. There we go. I feel pretty good about that. Okay, so let's just go through the letters one by one. So these are the capital letters. I think they're super pretty when it's like this. You know, one thing I love using faux calligraphy for, wow, that's a mouthful. When I, is that when I want to add swashes, where is my mouth today? Is when I want to add swashes to my lettering piece because I have to agree with a lot of you. that using the brush pen is really, really tricky, and it takes a whole lot of practice. I mean, really practice. And this is what I do, but every day for hours, I would sit here and just letter and practice, especially when doing the swashes. And when I talk about swashes, it's these little things that, the flourish makes it look super pretty. I just want to show you real quick. If I use the brush, and let's say for the letter T, it is inconsistent. See how inconsistent the thick and the thin? Because in my head, I'm thinking, okay, thick going down, and then really go light when it's the upstroke. So you have to think constantly in those things. But when you use just a regular pen, the fine or the small or the 1.5, you don't really have to worry about your pressure yet. You just have to think about the composition of your letters. I hope I am making sense here. So let's try with the 1.5, okay? This one, I'm not thinking about thin and thick yet. I'm just worrying about my letters. But when we do faux calligraphy, then we can be more consistent with the thin and the thick lines. So we can just add that and then fill the letters in. And then this is a downstroke. So I'm just gonna add. But I do admit that using the brush pen has a different look to it. But knowing both, I think will give you an option when you're like, you know what, I still haven't mastered my thin and thick and my heavy and my light. I'm just gonna concentrate first on the mono line and then do the faux calligraphy. Because when you try to do so much at one time, what you're doing is you're overwhelming yourself and you get frustrated and then you quit. So that's what I don't want you to do. So if you want to create like pretty lettering pieces, and if you're not very comfortable with your brush pens yet, faux calligraphy is really a fun way to do this. So let's just do the letters real quick so we can go over these. I'm using just a tracing paper. I love all these washes. If I'm going to do this with a brush pen, I have to be really mindful and really go slow. So this is a letter A. So look at this one. This is a really good example of this, adding your strokes to the right or to the left side of the stroke. A lot of stroke. So this one, I'm going to add our extra stroke here. So I'm going to change the strokes to line. Okay. And then this one, we're going to add that extra line over here on the inside. See? I'm going to put that over there. Right. And then we'll do the letter B. I love doing letter Bs. And again, this is just one way of writing these capital letters. You can do this in so many other ways. You can do it in your style, in other people's style, many, many other way to write this letter B. Here we go. So I'm going to add the extra line over there. I'm going to add the extra line over here. We're going to add extra line for belly. And then this one, I feel like kind of like what we did earlier with the word, with the letter S. I want to not make this too small over here. So if I add my stroke on the inside, now this little belly, the bottom belly, is going to be really small. And this one is really very wider, I should say. But, you know, some days I feel like, you know, this is the look that I want. But this time I want it to be a little more consistent. So I'm going to I added that extra line on the outside. Okay, so the letter C. Even when I'm tracing, I'm still going over the line. And it's okay. So we're just going to add that extra line there. And then this is our thick stroke. So downstroke, add here, pull this one over here, then add extra one over there. Right, so letter D, kind of same how we did our letter B. See? So you started from the top, you pull it down, make a loop, and then go up and down again. We're just going to add the stroke in here. And then I did over here. So this will be my little wonky. It's okay. Bye. All right, let's do our letter E. I'm not very fond of the letter E. I don't know why. But I love ampersand. It looks like an ampersand. There you go. And again, this technique will go just, it goes with prints or with scripts, okay? Like what we did earlier with the word love and the word bless. So this one, we're gonna go do the letter F. Wow, this one is really inconsistent. And then I'm gonna add here. I'm gonna add an extra.
Any suggestions for someone that maybe would want to add some extra swashes to just their own handwriting style?
I'm sorry, Krista, say that again.
Would you have any suggestions for someone that maybe would want to add swashes to their own lettering style?
Well, yeah, absolutely, of course. See, swashes are a little tricky, the flourish. There's really, I wish I have a whole lot of techniques in that. But one thing that I can say when you're doing swashes is really make it flowy. You know, make your swashes and your flourishes really flowy, and not too tight, not too narrow. I'm just going to show you some example. Think of them as like waves. So this is the one that I practiced a lot when I was first starting. It's kind of like the infinity sign, right? Let's try that again. So kind of like the number 8. You're doing the number 8 over and over, or a letter L. And that's one tip that really helps me a lot when I'm doing illustrations or something different, is to try not to get overwhelmed with the whole picture. Because sometimes when you look at it in the bigger picture, it's like, oh, wow, I don't know how to do that. But if you think of it as you're just writing a letter L in script way, kind of like L, see? Okay, and then I'm going to go over there again and do the loop. But see how my hands were like flowing? I guess you didn't see that. I'm going to repeat that again. So you're just writing a letter L. Flow, flowing. This is when don't overthink and let your hands do the magic. Do the magic, do the magic. But when you get overwhelmed with the whole big picture, you're just going to quit real quick. So think of it as a letter L or a letter 8, however, whichever would work best for you. So another one that I like to add, for example, this is your style of lettering. Lay. simple. Now, how can you add a flourish to this one? This is how I would do it. Also, one thing to remember when you're doing flourish, I think go simple first and make your loops consistent and not super crazy busy in the beginning. That's just a simple print, and we made it extra because we added those flourishes. So now let's take it one more step and make it as a faux calligraphy with all those swatches and flourishes. So let's start again. Let's just do hey. With that idea of we're going to add some extra line, be mindful of the spaces of your letters. So I went up, so down, up, made a loop, and then down. So I didn't do it in the letter H. So one thing that I want to tell you, when you're using a mono pen or a fine pen, sometimes if you're gonna, like for me, I forgot to add the swash here and I want to come back and go over it again and add my swashes. Don't go to where your line ended. Go in the middle. So go over this, right? Instead of coming here and having such a weird connecting of those lines. So just go in the middle, find your middle. What is happening? Don't copy that. Okay, so we're gonna take this and make this a faux calligraphy. So we're just gonna add the line here. And then this was my downstroke, but for me to fix this, I have to go over here. So we're just gonna fill that in. Do the same thing. See, I can add more swash here like this. Simple loop. Yeah. So there we go. Or if you're writing a capital H, so try with simple loops like this first. Like that. These are just simple that you can practice along and add to the, kind of like adding tail to your letters. So if you're A, see, but when you overdo it, it's kind of like it looks really odd. So if I'm going to do this, I would not stretch it, towards the bottom. I would just go over here, kind of like making a letter C, and then go up. And then this time, bring this down. So you have a very uniform looking, and then you just add, let's do that again. A is a good letter to practice, kind of like a small C, down and then up. And then let's do it again. Bringing this down and then add the middle part. Now, if you want to be extra with the flourish here, I would that in. So I think the best tip that I can share when you want to start adding your flourishes and your swashes, go simple first. And then from there, you can start adding things up because this is a little extra now. But if you want to just do the letter Y much simpler, you can just see how you just make loops. And then here, instead of that, add that extra loop again. And then loop again. So as long as it's flowing, I think that's the key. Your loops and your swashes it has to be flowing because if it's tight, this is what it's going to look like. It's just a simple script. But when you think round, so make your letters much thicker and rounder, and then your swashes go round as well and a lot of loops, right? So should we go through the letters again? But you guys can practice this at home, you can do it over and over until you get familiar and you have this idea in your head that, okay, this is my downstroke, this is my upstrokes, so this is where I need to add my line. But just repetition is really, really important. So let's just do a couple more letters. And if you have any questions, I'll try my hardest. So just leave them in the chat. And then here, I'm gonna here. Do my letter H. That. So this is where my downstroke. I'll add my extra line in there. And then I'm gonna add some here. So the letter J. See, notice the letters here, they're really flowing. They really have these loops. That's very round. I want to explain that. It's not sticky looking. That doesn't even make sense. So that H-I, that was I. This is letter J, guys. Okay, so the letter J, I'm like there. We have to go a little up. The letter I is just in the bottom. So how did I do this letter? I went up here and then I went here. So I'm just gonna add my downstroke here. Go up and then I'm gonna add over here. And then for good looks, oh my God. There we go. And then we're gonna go over here with the letter K. Yes, you can get tracing paper and then just go over them like this. Or you can print them in a much smaller size and then you can tape it in your journal if you have a sketchbook. That always helps. It helps me a lot when I have a reference that I can look back into and say, oh yeah, that's how you do that.
Lei, when you're going to start lettering, how do you decide which pen you would like to use?
Yes, that's what I was going to say with this lettering. See, the key to a good composition, now we know the letters, now we know the upstrokes, now we know that we have to do thin going up and we have to do thick going down. Now the composition happens. So how do you get these, there's some flags in there, some tags in there that use balloons. Let's just make things simple first, just letters alone. Now, when you start lettering, you have to have a vision in your head already, a visual of how it's going to look like. So say, for example, the have courage and be kind. Let me just grab a new paper here. And this is where the pencil really, really helps. Because even though I have a visual in my head of where I'm going to add the loops, where it's going to have an extra tail. I don't know the correct terms for those, but we're just going to say tails and bellies and all that. So you have to have this visual. Okay, the word have. How do I write the word have? Because you can always maybe you want it just print, you know, simple. So let's say letter H. So in your head, okay, my V is going to go down a little. So now, okay, the word courage is a little long. So how can I make sure that it still looks good? So we can put in this one, we did in the bottom of the letter H, but we can also go over here because we know we're going to use a capital C. So I can go over here. And then, and this is where I love using pencil, guys. I can't stress that enough because in this one, I know my letter G is going to have a loop over here. So have courage and be kind. So we still have the ampersand and then two other words. So how can I do this? Sometimes you want to say, okay, maybe my ampersand will be small. Or let's say I'm just going to do this in print and make my word end instead of the ampersand, right? And then our letter B, down, oop, belly. See, I'm not happy with that one. So I need my handy dandy eraser. And this is where pencil really helps. Instead of a capital E, I want that small. And so now I can't make it a big K because it's going to hit it here. I don't really want that. But we can try. Kind of like make it look like. And when I'm working on a composition piece like this, I write with a pencil, erase, write with a pencil, erase, you know, because it's like, oh, that doesn't look good. So let me do that again. Oh, maybe try the letter, a smaller, you know, a small case K, or maybe not make my loop too big, you know. So again, see how awesome it is when you're using a pencil. You can go through your ideas before you finalize it. So that letter E, I'm going to make this one smaller. So yes, you do have a visual in your head of what you want to look like and how your letter is going to be, but things change. It's like, that looks so much better in my head than in this paper. So use a pencil first and then just do it like that. And then now we can go over it and actually use now a much smaller tip. I'm not going to use a brush pen. I'm going to use the small tip on this one. And what I like to do is I like to kind of go over the eraser, like just messy.
Lay,
It's
which
okay.
eraser are you using tonight?
This one is the dust-free one that we have. Can you see?
Yep, thank you. It was hard to tell, but yep.
Yeah, all right. So even just messy, just go over your letters slightly. We're going to clean that up later. As long as you have still your lines, you know where it's at. Let me go. Zoom in on this one so you can see. I was like, what is that? That's a mess. It is a mess. It's okay. So we're going to go over here. I'm using the small tip. So we have the word have. So again, with your strokes, if I want to go over it, again, don't go where you left your last stroke. Go in the middle, find the middle, and then go over those lines. And do a letter E. And then we're going to add the word "and" over here. And then B. Also, I wanted to add that the Pitt Artist Pen, guys, if you're a lefty, you're really going to love this pen because it dries so fast. And also when it dries, it is waterproof. So you can use it with watercolor and it's going to be super pretty. Keep your eyes open for future classes because we're going to do something fun with watercolors as well.
Our next class with Lay will be on February 3rd at 6 p.m. Central Time.
That's right. We're going to create some cards for Valentine. I love creating handmade cards like that, presents, you know, simple things. Now I'm just going over my lines and cleaning it up. And I love this eraser and I love this pen because I can't tell you how frustrated I get when I do my line work and then all the artwork is ruined because the pen wasn't dry enough. Maybe it's not the pen, maybe it's me being impatient, but this eraser and this pen, I love so much. All right, so now to do our faux calligraphy, and this is going to end this. We're just going to go over it, add our extra lines over that. If you're not following Faber-Castell on Instagram, you should because there's a lot of inspiration over there, how to use their products. Me too. So go over here and I'll add that loop. Find me on Instagram. So after this class, if you have any questions, you know, you can always reach out to me. I love the engagement and I really love interacting with all of you on social media. So if you have any questions, please, as long as it doesn't have anything to do with math, I'm there for you. All right. See, when I'm talking, my lines are inconsistent. It's okay. We can go over it again and just add a little stroke. So again, what have we learned today? We have learned that when we're doing faux calligraphy, is we need to be mindful of the spacing of our letters. It doesn't matter if it's a script or a print, as long as you have enough space to add that extra stroke for the thicker strokes that we're trying to copy or fake. I'm not happy with this. I'm just going to add a little bit here. As you can see, guys, really what it is, it's just repetition, doing it over and over. And what really helps too is that choosing, for example, the quote, "Have courage and be kind." You know, this is from the movie Cinderella. I really love it. And do it over and over. Do it in different style, but stick to one quote first if you're just a beginner, because don't overwhelm yourself. I know there's so many great pieces online, you know, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and all that. There's a lot. And use it as an inspiration instead of feeling discouraged, because don't compare your level 1 to someone's level 200. You know, they're probably doing this for years. Like myself, I've been doing this for years. but I'm still practicing, and really consistency, and having fun, because add that fun, add the joy to it, because when you're having fun doing something, it doesn't it doesn't become a burden. It doesn't become frustrating. And yes, of course, it gets a little frustrating at times when you're like doing it over and over 100 times already, and you feel like you're not improving. Another tip is really keep a journal, simple notebook, that your practice notebook. Think of it as your practice notebook, because it's really important when during those times when you feel frustrated, that you feel like nothing's improving. I'm not even learning anything. I've practiced. My hands are so tired, I'm cramping and all that. But once you have your notebook, then you have that pieces to look back on and to compare it. And you're not comparing it to others, but you're just comparing it to yourself. You're comparing it to your progress. When you see your progress that way, when you see your letter H improving, and when you see your letter O or S, or your loops and your swashes, that's when it gets really, you will get inspired, because seeing your progress that way. So keep a notebook, um, repetition, practice, 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 because it doesn't matter how many workshop we do together. If you don't practice this at home, you're never going to improve. But if you have any questions for me, again, you can find me on Instagram. It's at Mommy Lay. Make sure to follow Faber-Castell and Michael's as well. As always, it's a pleasure to share with you a little bit of the knowledge that I've learned through the years. And thank you, Krista from Faber-Castell, for having me again. I'm so excited. I hope you'll be able to join us again on February 3rd. Make sure to sign up for the class, because it's going to be fun. There's going to be doodling, and there's going to be lettering for that class. And it's going to be fantastic. So thank you again. And I hope you all have a blessed evening. I'll see you next time again soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Lay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We'll see you on February 3rd.